How do you defeat the four enemies of discipline when you can't even see them? Eastern masters discovered that the most disciplined people never relied on willpower. They identified these four invisible attackers first. These enemies work in sequence, each weakening your defenses for the next. But these masters developed a framework that reverses this attack pattern entirely. In the next few minutes, we'll expose each enemy and the exact countermeasure that transforms them from destroyers into protectors. The first enemy strikes before you even begin, and it's probably attacking you right now. In Taoist philosophy, they call it Yi Huo, the confusion of intention. It's the voice that whispers perfectly reasonable doubts. Maybe I should wait for a better time. What if I'm not ready? Shouldn't I research more first? These thoughts feel like wisdom, but they're actually the first enemy in disguise. There's an ancient story about General Zhang, who never lost a single battle on the field, but nearly destroyed his entire army without drawing his sword. Before each campaign, he would spend days analyzing every possible outcome, every potential failure. His soldiers watched him pace his tent, mapping scenarios where they could lose. His doubts seemed strategic, even responsible. But while he deliberated, his enemies fortified their positions. His own troops lost confidence. By the time he decided to attack, he had already lost the psychological war. One morning, his master arrived and watched him planning. After 3 hours of Zhang's analysis, the master drew a circle in the dirt and said, "Your mind has fought 1,000 battles and lost them all. Your sword hasn't fought one." This is the pattern of Yi Huo. It disguises destruction as careful thinking. While you're being reasonable and prepared, this enemy is draining your momentum and weakening your resolve. The ancient countermeasure is called Wu Wei decision, making choices without internal debate. It's not about being reckless. It's about recognizing that the debate itself is the enemy. Here's the technique that defeats Yi Huo instantly: the 3-breath commitment. When you feel doubt creeping in, take 3 deep breaths. On the first breath, acknowledge the doubt. Don't fight it. On the second breath, recognize it as Yi Huo, the first enemy. On the third breath, commit to action before your mind can generate another objection. Try it right now with something you've been putting off. That email you haven't sent, that workout you've been delaying, that conversation you've been avoiding. First breath, notice the resistance. Second breath, recognize the enemy. Third breath, commit and move. The moment you act, Yi Huo loses its power. But here's what most people don't expect. Defeating doubt doesn't create confidence. It reveals emptiness. And in that emptiness, the second enemy is already waiting. Because while Yi Huo attacks your intentions, the next enemy targets something even more fundamental: your relationship with discomfort itself. The second enemy is more dangerous precisely because it doesn't feel like an enemy at all. Buddhist texts call it anyi, comfortable stagnation. Unlike doubt, which announces itself with anxiety, anyi wraps you in silk chains so soft you don't realize you're trapped until it's too late. This is the comfort trap, and it's everywhere you look. Your phone knows exactly which videos keep you scrolling. Your couch has memorized the perfect shape of your body. Your routines have carved grooves so deep that any deviation feels like climbing a mountain. The algorithm of modern life is designed to eliminate friction, and that's exactly how anyi conquers you. There's an ancient parable that reveals how this enemy operates. A wealthy merchant built himself a palace of pure gold. Every surface was smooth, every edge rounded, every need anticipated. Servants appeared before he knew he was hungry. Entertainment flowed endlessly without repetition. He never had to leave. At first, he felt like a king. But after a year, he couldn't walk to his own garden without exhaustion. After 2 years, making simple decisions paralyzed him. After 3 years, he couldn't remember why he'd wanted wealth in the first place. The Golden Palace hadn't made him powerful. It had made him its prisoner. This is what makes anyi deadlier than doubt. Yi Huo attacks your mind, but anyi erodes your very capacity for discomfort. It doesn't argue with your discipline. It simply makes discipline unnecessary until you forget you ever had it. The ancient countermeasure is the controlled discomfort protocol, deliberately introducing small challenges that keep your edge sharp. But here's the key insight. You don't fight comfort by seeking pain. You fight it by strategic positioning, arranging your environment so that discipline becomes the path of least resistance. The merchant escaped his golden prison with 3 simple changes. First, he removed all chairs from his study, forcing himself to stand or sit on the floor. Second, he ate his morning meal only after completing one meaningful task. Third, he took cold water to wash before allowing himself warm. Modern translation: delete the apps that trap you. Put your gym clothes next to your bed. Keep healthy food at eye level and junk food out of sight. Make the right choice, the easy choice. Here's your protocol. Identify 3 comfort traps in your life right now: your endless scroll, your snooze button, your default excuses. Then redesign your environment to make discipline automatic. But be warned, the moment you start breaking free from comfort's grip, you'll discover why An Yi was setting you up for defeat. Because when you can no longer hide in comfort, your mind has nowhere to run except into chaos itself. The third enemy has been waiting for this moment. While Yi Huo confused your intentions and An Yi weakened your tolerance for discomfort, the next enemy will shatter your focus entirely. And unlike the first 2, this one multiplies when you try to fight it. The Zen masters called it San Luan, the scattered spirit. This is the force that fragments your attention into 1,000 useless pieces. And here's why it's so lethal. San Luan doesn't just attack your focus. It uses your victories against the first 2 enemies as weapons. Remember defeating doubt? San Luan turns that clarity into overthinking. Remember breaking free from comfort? San Luan fills that space with chaos. This is the multiplier enemy. It transforms your strength into weakness. Ancient monks observed this through the story of Master Yuan, the greatest archer in China. He could hit a sparrow in flight, thread an arrow through a keyhole, split a grain of rice from 100 paces. But when he tried to hit 3 targets at once, he missed them all. His teacher blindfolded him and said, "Now hit the center target." He protested, "I can't see anything." "Exactly," his teacher replied. "When you see everything, you hit nothing. This is the curse of our age. Your phone shows you 1,000 lives you're not living. Your mind processes more information before breakfast than your ancestors saw in a year. Every notification is an arrow aimed at your attention." San Luan thrives in this chaos. It convinces you that multitasking is efficiency, the distraction is relaxation, that scrolling is resting. But each split in your attention makes you weaker against all the enemies you've already faced. The traditional countermeasure is single-point meditation, but monks had the luxury of silent temples. You live in a world designed to scatter you. Here's the modern adaptation: the 90-second reset protocol. When you feel your mind fragmenting, stop everything. Set a timer for 90 seconds. Choose one point of focus: your breath, a spot on the wall, the sensation in your hands. For those 90 seconds, that point is your entire universe. Every time your mind wanders, and it will, simply note thinking and return to your point. Don't fight the distractions. Don't judge the wandering. Just return, again and again. This isn't meditation, it's combat training. You're building the mental muscle that San Luan has been systematically weakening. Practice this 3 times today: morning, afternoon, evening. Watch how differently your mind behaves each time. Notice how San Luan fights hardest when you're closest to breakthrough. Because here's what happens when you defeat all 3 enemies in sequence. Yi Huo's doubt transforms into clarity, and Yi's comfort transforms into readiness. San Luan's chaos transforms into laser focus. You become unstoppable. But this is exactly when the most dangerous enemy strikes. It waits until you've won every battle, until you feel invincible, until you believe you've mastered discipline itself. The final enemy doesn't attack your weakness. It hides inside your strength. And it's been there all along, watching you defeat its lieutenants, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything you've built. The final enemy is already inside you, celebrating every victory you've had so far. Confucian scholars called it Aoman, the pride that grows from discipline itself. This is the enemy that only attacks winners, which is why it's the deadliest of all. It doesn't fight your discipline. It becomes your discipline. Listen carefully, because this enemy has destroyed more masters than all the others combined. There was a monk named Hui who spent 20 years perfecting his discipline. He woke before dawn without fail. He meditated through blazing summers and frozen winters. He conquered every desire, every distraction, every weakness. Students traveled from across China to learn from him. They called him the unmovable mountain. One morning, a young student arrived late to meditation. Hui's anger exploded like a volcano. He berated the student for lacking discipline, for disrespecting the practice, for wasting everyone's time. That night, Hoy couldn't sleep. He realized the truth. His discipline had become his god, and he had become its prisoner. His identity was so wrapped in being disciplined that any imperfection in himself or others triggered rage. Within a month, his perfect routine crumbled. The discipline he'd spent 20 years building vanished like morning mist. This is how Aoman operates. It turns your discipline into armor, then convinces you the armor is your skin. You stop seeing discipline as a tool and start seeing it as your identity. I am disciplined becomes more important than what discipline was supposed to achieve. The symptoms are subtle: judging others for their lack of discipline, feeling superior because of your routines, panic when your systems are disrupted, or worst of all, forgetting why you wanted discipline in the first place. The ancient countermeasure comes from Zen Buddhism, Shoshin, beginner's mind protocol. Every morning, before you begin your disciplined routine, spend 30 seconds forgetting everything you know about discipline. Approach each task as if you've never done it before. Brush your teeth like it's the first time. Exercise like you just discovered movement. Work like you've never solved a problem. This isn't pretending. It's recognition that Aoman feeds on expertise, on the feeling that you've mastered something. Beginner's mind starves this enemy of its food. Here's your daily humility checkpoint. Ask yourself, what would I do differently if I had no discipline at all? The answer reveals whether you're using discipline as a tool or worshiping it as a master. Because here's the ultimate paradox. True discipline is invisible. It doesn't announce itself or demand recognition. It simply does what needs to be done, then disappears. Remember the opening truth? The strongest warriors weren't those who fought the hardest, but those who recognized what they were truly fighting. But here's the final insight that changes everything. The strongest discipline looks like no discipline at all. It moves without effort, adapts without struggle, persists without force. When someone asks for your secret, you'll have nothing to show them, because true mastery is invisible even to yourself. You now possess the same knowledge that created unshakable warriors, enlightened monks, and leaders who shaped empires. The four enemies are no longer hidden. Their weapons are exposed. Their patterns are mapped. The only question that matters: which enemy is winning in your life right now?